Welcome to Blueprint for Life. This is your host, Maylin and Sambois.
And I'm your co-host, Christina, Vera. Today, we are so excited for this episode. We get really, really excited when we have guests on the podcast just because it's important to us to bring experts and just dynamic people we find in the community that are really out here making like extraordinary moves. And today, this episode will be no short of that. We are excited to have Miss Santoria, who is joining us, who is a mom, entrepreneur, author, a businesswoman in general. And so, Santoria, we're so excited to have you today.
Yes, I'm excited you guys invited me. You guys are doing great work here. I've been listening to a couple of your podcasts, even recognize a couple names and faces. So
yes, well, we're excited for listeners just to get to know you a little bit better. And so, I had the privilege of meeting you almost last year. It's been a year now.
Can't believe it.
Was that panel a year ago? Oh my gosh. So we were both on a panel for a woman's biz leadership. I don't remember what it was called, but I just remember it was this dynamic leadership panel of women from all different sectors. And the moment I met, we actually parked in the same parking garage and we were both like, where are we going? And I was like, she looks lost. I look lost. We're probably going to the same space.
Best friends.
And yeah, it was like literally how it happened. And just hearing your story and the fact that you are just accomplishing so many things and you're a young professional, I think it was also really inspiring to see you in this light. And so, share with our listeners a little bit more just about like your personal journey and like just some of your professional accolades.
Well, thank you, first of all. I appreciate it. And I do remember that day that we met in the garage. It was a crazy day that day, actually. If you remember, my father had just passed away. Mm-hmm. And when we ran into each other, and we had that conversation, I think, walking up to our pre-meeting before the women's event the following day. So it's like instant connection. Like you said, you know how sisters, like that's how it feels. You just meet women and you're like, it's an instant connection. So again, I'm really grateful for our friendship and grateful that we got a chance to meet. But a little bit about me. I'm from Toledo originally. So I actually came to Columbus to go to college here at Ohio State. I graduated in 2014. My childhood was really rough, and I think that's what really inspired my entrepreneurial journey, was just because the way I was raised, like I had always had this mentality that where I came from, I didn't want to end up there, and so that was what pushed me to college. In fact, my book that I published, it's called The Broken Crayon That Colored Still, and it's my journey from child molestation to college graduation. And I talk about like how education truly saved my life. That's all I kept thinking about as a kid. I got to get out of here. My future cannot be dictated by my past. And so I did. I put my all in school. I graduated top of my class, had $250,000 in scholarships to go to school, graduated college debt-free, and just I stayed here in Columbus. And after college, I tampered with a few different things. I got my feet wet in entrepreneurship by first becoming involved in multi-level marketing. That was actually my first introduction. Outside of my father being an entrepreneur, like he was always like, he never wanted to work for anyone. So watching him, I kind of like, I liked the freedom that he had to move around, to come and go, do what he wanted, make as much or as little as he wanted. And so I was always inspired by that too. But when I went to college and I joined this multi-level marketing company, it introduced me to a whole new world, right? A whole new world of personal development, professional development. There were so many conferences we would go to and you're just like super inspired. You're like, I can be rich. Yeah. Like, let's do this. And, I'm no longer part of that network marketing company, but I do credit network marketing to being the spark, to my entrepreneurship journey because of just that introduction and seeing the possibilities, right? Seeing people in a light that I had never seen. I grew up surrounded by people that no offense to them, they did their best, but I didn't want their lives. Mm-hmm. I didn't want any part of their lives. And so seeing people for the first time as a young woman in college, 18, 19, 20 years old, that had the lifestyle that I didn't even think was possible for somebody like me, I'm a welfare kid, So I've seen that for the first time in college really like sparked something in me and just kind of took off from there. But since then, like I said, I published my book. I am now currently I work full-time actually for Moody Nolan, which is an architecture firm, and I actually love that job. I always tell people, don't get it confused. You can be an entrepreneur and still work a 9-to-5. I think a lot of times what happens is people want to jump into entrepreneurship and they don't understand, like, your 9-to-5 can fund your dream. It can fund your entrepreneurial journey.
Right.
And so thankfully I understood that very young. And so for the most part, I've kept jobs in like marketing, business development sectors, because those were like my niche. My degree is in education, ironically.
Okay.
But my niche is more so sales because of the network marketing. It's more so business development. It's more so event planning. It's more so, like I said, sales, marketing, business development, all those things. And so I've always kept a job kind of in that industry, and that's what I do now. Moody Nolan, I don't know if you guys are familiar, is the largest Black-owned architecture firm in the country.
Yeah.
So we just won Architecture Firm of the Year, the Firm of the Year award. And I really enjoy working for them. It's been an amazing journey so far. I can't believe I've been there for 2 years now. I actually started 2 weeks before the pandemic.
Wow.
And so literally was only in the office for 2 weeks. And now I fully work from home, and which has been nice because, again, it kind of gives me a little more flexibility to really do what I want to do on an entrepreneurial side.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love that you share that, because I think we talk about a lot of people. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone, right? But anybody could do it if they wanted to do it. And sometimes people feel torn that they have to leave their job because they have to be like, in Instagram, it looks real good.
I know.
Right? Like, I'm an entrepreneur.
So
I don't work for nobody. I'm like, well, who pays your bills though? Exactly. Right? Because that journey entrepreneurship takes time to build that. We're never saying it's not possible. So I love that you share that. Thank you for that. Please follow her, everybody. But the second thing I have for you is how do you manage that, right? How do you manage the business and, a great business, and then also having a 9-to-5 and a family?
How do I manage it is, honestly, I love the saying. I'm a big quote person. And there's this saying, like, how do you eat an elephant, right? And it's like one bite at a time, right? That's how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. And I literally operate my life in that one bite at a time. What is the next thing I can do? And that isn't all things. But in terms of like how I manage on a more practical level, is that, prioritization, schedules. Like I said, I work a 9-to-5. So typically during those hours, I'm not working. I work on weekends, evenings, or whatever. But a huge part of how I manage it is being wise with what type of entrepreneurship, like entrepreneurial things that I get into. So I don't go trying to do something, I guess, that I know is that I cannot do. I don't bite off more than I can chew. In a sense, to be more specific, like, for example, I'm in real estate right now. I do real estate investing. I own a duplex. And so with that duplex, I actually run Airbnbs on both sides. The reason why I love that is it's more, I don't want to say it's passive income, but it's income I don't have to be there all the time to make. Right. And so if you're going to work a 9-to-5 and, dabble in entrepreneurship, maybe experiment with something that's kind of like can make money without you being there. That's another reason why I love multi-level marketing. Depending on what kind of company you get into, of course, and the product, you got to love the product. But it's like, if you want to make a little extra money, you still can doing that, just because of the simple fact that you can, work your 9-to-5, but then, dedicate 2 hours a night or whatever, some hours on the weekend, those extra hours. And when you build a team, they can be out there growing it too for you. So you don't necessarily have to be there. That's what kind of gave me that itch to be able to do that in everyday entrepreneurship right now. So now that I'm not in any MLM companies, and I'm solely doing, just like right now, more so real estate investing and kind of looking at, again, what's my next property, doing those short-term rentals. It, like I said, sparked that in me to where I was like, well, how can I make money in my sleep? Like, I just got to be able to make money in my sleep. So now, like I said, yesterday morning I woke up and I had a young lady book just one of the rooms in my house for a month for $1,000. And I own a duplex that has 3 bedrooms on each side. So I rent out each of the rooms individually to nurses who come for these long stays. They book a room for $1,000 a month. That's 3 times my mortgage. if I was to have all the rooms booked. And so that's how I look at it. I'm like, okay, well, then I know I only need to be there if something happens, something breaks, or I need to restock something. My cleaners take care of the cleaning and the organization and the management, pay them a fee. And I mean, that's pretty much how that's how I manage right now, is just choosing wisely what I get involved in.
I love that, because I love that you almost simplified it in a way, because I think sometimes because of so much social media and people really, I feel like a lot of people give advice on stuff they have no idea what they're talking about. And no, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, be mindful of who you're taking advice from, because if they are not actively living what you want, or like something that you can really connect with, don't come giving me advice about how to make money, how to make moves, how to build businesses, if you yourself are not doing that. And so, and I mean that in a respectful way, because you're always going to have family or people who are like, hey, you should really consider this. But I appreciate the fact that you are walking this journey as a mom, as a full-time, creative. You're an author. You really are speaking from experience. And I think that's important for people to take advice, take what applies to you, as you said with the example, as like bite off what you can really chew. And if entrepreneurship is really something of interest, finding ways to get involved in entrepreneurial dealings that are things that you can actually manage.
Yeah, and I think entrepreneurship has to be redefined, because I think many times people think it's like you have to be crazy working, to not sleeping and having this like stress, almost go to to a hospital in order to make money, when really in reality you could simply just pick one thing and make money out of that, something that you love and you enjoy. And thank you for saying that about direct sales, because a lot of people have a stigma in that. And I learned a lot in direct sales. I did direct sales for a while. I still only part of them because I want to buy the stuff for a discount. That's what I do, guys. But I think that that's a business, right? According to the IRS, guys, and everybody else, that's a business.
It is.
And it gives you tax write-off. So if you don't have an idea on what to do, maybe join something to learn something, and then you can start your own thing, right? But I appreciate you sharing that, because that was your start.
Yeah.
And now a lot of your connections probably still there, because even though you don't do that anymore, those people are still there.
Oh yeah.
Right. That relationship building is key, definitely. And so, Santoria, what would you say motivates you? Who or what motivates you to kind of be? I know you said initially when you kicked off, it was really, I think what motivated you was you just didn't want to be from where you had come from. And, that was like, I got to get out of this city. I got to get out of this situation. But now that you have, you're no longer that young girl. What motivates you now, and what has really propelled you to keep pushing forward and keep building at the level that you're building?
I would definitely say like my daughter. Oh gosh, I don't want to get emotional just thinking about her, but she is literally everything to me. I mean, she's the nicest, sweetest, most empathetic, most smart. I mean, she is, and I know a lot of people probably say that about their kids, but I mean, when I tell you, like, my daughter, I've never had a problem with her. She goes to school. She's like in pre-K right now. Her teachers literally cried talking about her because she's so sweet. It was like, if I could, I feel like he just literally took an angel from heaven and just blessed me with her. And when I tell you, just her and being the young woman, like being a young lady, when I look at her, what motivates me, and I don't even say what motivates me, because I'm motivated by different things every day, but what keeps me disciplined is knowing that I get to rewrite the story for her, right? She doesn't have to struggle. She doesn't have to get it out the mud. She doesn't have to like overcome all these traumas and adversity, like resilience can be a trap. I hate to say it, because I preach and I talk and I speak about resilience all the time. But at the end of the day, like if you have this mentality of like you're just supposed to be resilient all the time and strong, I don't want that for my daughter. I want her to know ease. I want her to know softness. I want her to know strength, but I don't want that to be the sole thing that defines her, like I feel like it has been for me. I've lived my life constantly in survival mode. I want my daughter to be able to thrive, and so what keeps me disciplined is knowing that I get an opportunity, and a responsibility to rewrite that story for her. So that way she does not have to. I get an opportunity to break that chain, and it really does start with me. Like that is my responsibility. She did not ask to be born into this world. It is my responsibility to set a foundation for her that is conducive to her having those things. So that is really what I guess keeps me disciplined. In terms of like motivation, I talk about this a lot too when I do speaking engagements. There's a difference between motivation and discipline. You know, what keeps me motivated changes daily. I have to literally wake up some days and choose like what I'm going to choose to motivate me today. Because, oh my gosh, like motivation is like gas. Like you got to keep filling up your tank, okay? Because it will run out. Some days I wake up, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not motivated to do anything today. And I will put on a podcast. You know, I love podcasts. They keep me going.
What do you listen to? What's your thing now?
Steve Harvey is one of my favorites. So I'm a big comedy person.
I love him.
But I also love God. Like I love God. I love me some God. I would talk about God. I don't care what rooms it gets me kicked out of. I don't care. Because for me, I'm not a big like person on giving advice. What I do is I'm a storyteller. I tell people, I say, hey, this worked for me. It may not work for you. Mm-hmm. It may not work for you. I'm just going to tell you what I did. And if you feel that you might want to give that a try, then go on ahead. You know, I can tell you how I did it, but I can't tell you what to do. You know, entrepreneurship journeys are not one size fits all. Right. You know, and so what people fail to realize is that, you know, I can share with you what I did. Like right now, people always ask me, why don't you do life coaching? Why don't you do... I offer consultations if people are interested, but my consultations are different than most people. My consultations, I'm not going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to do something. I'm just going to share with you how I did it. And then if you can find some inspiration in that, if you can find some nuggets in that to pull from my story, because I'm no professional, or not professional, let me rephrase that. I'm no expert. Mm-hmm. I'm only an expert in my journey, you know? So everyone's journey is their own. And so I love Steve Harvey. I love the way he keeps it real, but he's funny, but he talks about God. He's unapologetic about his love for God. He's unapologetic too about his mistakes. He's made a lot of mistakes. You know, I've made a lot of mistakes. And so he's unapologetic about it. He's very transparent. He talks, you know, and just that's my guy. So I love Steve Harvey. I also love Earn Your Leisure. That's a good podcast to listen to. Oh my gosh. If you guys follow them on Instagram too, Earn Your Leisure is an amazing, amazing podcast. They actually just interviewed Steve Harvey recently too, but those young guys are really, breaking the mold with what they're doing. And then just a couple, like I've listened, this morning I told you I was listening to your guys' podcast too. I love what you're doing. Even with Femergy, like when the one that I was listening to recently was, I think you were speaking on it as well. You were saying it was the one you guys did about what to do when your like life falls apart. Oh yeah. And you have to like restart. Like you have to start over. I love that. You mentioned something that is ironic that I have in my tattooed on my arm. You know, about Romans 8:28. Yes. And you know, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Yes. That oh my gosh. And when you said that, I was like, wow. I was like, yep. I was like, that is me. That is 100%. That is something that has kept me grounded, is remembering that quote exactly. You know, It was my therapist. It was what she, which I know you guys talk a lot about on your podcast too, but one of the things that she recommended was to find a promise from God and hold on to it when you're going through adversity. And this was my promise that got me through so much. You know, I wish I would have held on to this more as a younger person, but it's helped me a lot now.
And I found that in my later years too. So, you know, I didn't read the Bible like that, but I think at times when you think all is lost and when nothing makes sense, that is what really gives me, like, I may not get this, but I know this is going to work for my own good, right? Like I always tell myself, I don't know about this. I don't like this, but I trust, right? And I think for a lot of people that are in that place right now of lost, that is a good place. That's an anchor for me because I believe in God, but, you know, you have to find what anchors you and not losing the hope because, you know, for your story, you could have lost hope a long time ago, but you chose not to lose hope and eventually found help, right? Which will really help you through it. Before you found the help to get you through it, what was keeping you through it? Like, what was helping you?
Before I went to therapy? Yeah. I would say, number one, like I said, my younger years was definitely education. Like I really was like, this is a ticket out, you know, it was just, that's all I knew. So I kept my head down, stay focused and just kind of like ran through. It was a good coping mechanism. And what I write about in my next book, which I'm really excited about, this book is really like,
I'm excited. I saw your Instagram. It was like 4 a.m. writing. I saw, she's working on another book.
This is the good stuff. You know, that first book was about coping. This is about healing, you know, and coping and healing are not the same thing. You know, and I spent a lot of my life coping, you know, and coping is how you survive, but healing is, you got to heal to thrive. You know, I always tell people that, like, coping is how you survive, but you have to heal to thrive. Because if healing is just, oh, it's dirty business though, man, it's taken me years. So before I actually went to therapy, like, I was literally just coping until one day, like, I graduated from college and it smacked me dead in my face. My coping mechanism wasn't there anymore. I didn't have education anymore. So now it's like, now what?
Right.
And everything that I had been deferring, right? Everything, it's kind of, I talk about this in my book. I say it's like a Sally Mae loan payment.
Right.
You know, you can defer it all you want to, but she got to get paid.
Right.
There is a payment due on our pain.
Right.
And you can cope all you want to, but guess what? One day you got to pay the payment.
Right.
You got to pay the piper. And for me, it happened after college. Like, I just got hit and I went through a bad depression. A lot of people don't know this, you know, like I didn't really, oh my gosh, like I didn't know if I wanted to live, but I didn't think I wanted to die, but I would like intentionally put myself in situations that would have to choose for me, because I was so lost. I was so hurt, all that pain and all that, the things that I had deferred. I had never been to counseling after what had happened with my stepfather. You know, a lot of people, if you've never read my book and you're listening, it's, you know, my journey from child molestation to college graduation. And I talk about, you know, how like I was abused for a year by my stepfather. He tried to cut off my fingers, you know, was physically abusive too. And then when I put him in prison, for 8 years. And while I was in college, he got out and my mother took him back. You know, they're still married. They still live together. And people are like, well, how are you able to have a relationship with your mother? You know, and how are you able to forgive and things like that? And I'm like, honey, that and how I survived the years after college is nothing but the grace of God. Nothing. It was nothing to do with me, because I look back, I'm like, wow, I should not have survived that right there. You know, I was like literally going through it after college. And so what made me go get therapy was having my daughter. You know, I didn't start therapy until 2019. That's when I finally went to therapy. And I was like, no, this has to change, because I was just in this dark place for those 4 or 5 years where nobody knew. But I was spiraling. I was really struggling. And so that's what I write about in my book, is those years that I was struggling until I finally went and decided like I needed to heal from what had happened to me as a child, you know, because not only was it affecting my mental health, but it was affecting obviously like my relationships, my relationship with myself, you know, my relationship with men and how I viewed them. And so I didn't want to, that just wasn't me. I'm like, God. And finally I fell to my knees. I read the book of Job in the Bible. And like, and I remember reading at first, and the book of Job, if you don't know, is like just about how Job basically like lost everything. I mean, the devil really came and did a number on Job. Right. And I remember back then thinking like, God, why would you do this to him? What? You just said he was one of your most faithful servants. Like, why would you do this to him, God? But that's the trick of the enemy, right? Because how I view it now in my healing, God didn't do that to him. The enemy did that to him. God is who restored it all, right? But like when you're reading it, you're like, what, God, why would you do this to him? And I remember being mad at God like for a while. Yeah. Like, God, why would you do this to him? Like, well, I don't want to be Job. Please don't take it all. Just don't take what I got. I don't even care if you give me back double, sir. Just please don't take what I have. And so, you know, at the time, like I said, it was just, I could go down that journey forever. But for the most part, before I went to therapy, it was nothing but the grace of God. It couldn't have been that kept me, because those 5 years, I wasn't really doing much. Like I didn't publish my book until 2019. And that's what also too prompted me to go to therapy, because me writing my book, I feel like it gave me permission to heal. Like once I put all the hurt on the paper, because that's what I did. I wrote about in my book is I put it out there. I wrote it. It was like redemption for me. Yeah. You know, and so writing was a huge part of keeping me sane in those years, was just putting it on paper. I put my pain on paper, like, just put it out there. And so publishing it was very redeeming. It was very redeeming for me, because it was like, okay, it's out there now. People know. the world knows. It's not a dirty little secret. It's not hidden. It's nothing to be shamed about. You took ownership of what happened to you. It's your story. And now you can heal. And once I put out that book, I published my book in March of 2019 and got therapy in April. Wow. So I spent about 2 years doing that. So 2.5 years.
That's amazing. What was that process of writing for you? Because I know of a lot of people that want to write a book. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, it seems like such a, like, again, I know the bite, every small bite, that's how we probably did it. But how was that for you, right? Having to share your story and writing.
Like I said, it was very healing for me. The actual process, I actually have an ebook that I'm going to release here soon too on how to self-publish your own story. And again, it's not for everyone. That's what I would tell entrepreneurs too. The riches are in the niches. You cannot reach everybody. This ebook is strictly for people who want to self-publish their personal stories, you know, of overcoming adversity or resilience or anything, but their own personal stories. And I write a little bit about that process. But for me, the process was pretty. Once I got serious about it, it was pretty simple. You know, what I would do is I would wake up at 5 o'clock every morning. I did this for about little over 60 days. Woke up at 5 o'clock every morning, and network marketing taught me this, was to give the first couple hours a day to me and my dream before going off and giving 8 hours a day to somebody else's. You know, so at the time I was working for a law firm. So what I would do is I would get up. I had a 1-year-old baby at the time, you know, not one. She was a little over 1. 1-year-old baby at the time. I would wake up in the morning and I would dedicate the first 2 hours of every day to writing, like just getting the job done. And my mind was so much more clear in the mornings. It just flowed. And so for those first couple hours, you know, I would wake up in the morning, you know, talk to God, get me some tea and get that writing done. And I did that for about 60 days and got it done, you know. And what I did was I compiled a lot of the journal entries, quote unquote, that I had been writing over the years. You know, I had been writing for like 7 years at this point, just spilling it out on paper. And so I was looking at it, you know, through like reading my own journal entries and thinking like, okay, well, what did I want to include in the book? Yeah. You know, what would be good for the audience to see? And so did that and finished the book literally in like 2-3 months.
Wow. And I love that you share kind of a little bit of like what your process is, because I think that's so key into really having a routine. And one thing you said, I remember when I first met you, I don't know if it was at the dinner or if it was at the panel, that I can't remember, but you said you had like, I don't know if it's like written on a board somewhere in your house or but you said the goal, like you had a financial goal you wanted to hit. And I don't know if it was monthly or daily.
Monthly.
It wasn't like $10,000
a month.
Okay, I thought I was tripping. I remember she's like, I got something somewhere in my house and it's like $10,000 a month is my personal goal, and I see it every day. And so can you speak to a little bit to just like intentional, you know, some people call it manifestation. Some people call it just, you know, really putting the practice of creating like the life that you want to have. Like, what does that really look like for you in your everyday?
Well, I mean, like I said, you know, write the vision, make it plain. If you gotta put that thing in front of you, you know, every day. And so, yeah, that's exactly what I did. And I had like for all of my goals, I had created a vision board, that said that at that time that was my financial goal, was $10,000 a month. And I had also printed it out, $10,000 a month, and put it on my mirror. In the bathroom, I put it on my my dresser right by my nightstand. I have it on my, like, literally just everywhere. It's my refrigerator. When you go to open up the refrigerator door, the places that you touch pretty often, my side door where I was leaving out of my house at that particular place, I had it on the door at the time, because I see that door every day when I'm coming and going. And so just kind of putting it in your face really keeps you, it's a way to hold you accountable, you know, because you're like, I got this goal, but am I doing anything for it? You can't avoid it. It's literally an accountability piece. That's really what it is for me. It's an accountability tool.
Yeah. Do you have like, because we often talk about like the importance and power of like relationships and peer circles, and, you know, holding yourself accountable is sometimes can be a challenge, especially if you're not disciplined. And I think you mentioned that earlier. And so for you, like, you know, a lot of people always come up to us like, man, I wish I had a Maylin, or I wish I had a Christina. Like, I feel like you two hold each other accountable. But that also took intention in us in saying like, all right, I want to be vulnerable enough to be real. Like, I need you to help me reach this goal. And this is what I'm prepared to do to hold myself and hold you accountable. And so how important has that played a part in your life in terms of your immediate circle, your peer circle? Because you don't just wake up one day and have goals like 10,000 a month, and you know there's not also someone that's like, hey, where are we at with that 10,000? Like, what's that looking like? Like, what does that look like for you? Like, do you feel like that's important? And if it is or not, like, what does that look like for you?
Well, it changes, right? Because, so here's the thing. I have those people that are in my circle, and even those people that we don't speak every day, you know, like, you know, Skyla, for example,
yes.
right? Like Sugar Pies, you know, I'm super proud of her. Just watching her journey. We don't talk every day, but we inspire each other, you know? And so it's like watching her journey and watching how she perseveres and pushes through and gets things done. You know, she does the things that she says she's going to do. So when we do speak, it's like, oh man, I got to share this with you. And you're like, it's just inspiration is a huge source of my accountability, because I'm like, wow, you inspire me to keep going. There have been different times where I've had different coaches in my life who have, you know, just kind of like were actual accountability partners who called me every day, like, hey, how many calls did you make? You know, more so in network marketing. But also too, relationships can be interesting, especially when you're talking about business. It's very, I mean, you consider yourself very blessed to come across somebody who you can like day to day, you know,
right.
rock with. That's like, I'm calling you every day. Because I've had different relationships with different people who have held me accountable. A lot of times though, especially, you know, is typically when they had a personal gain in it,
okay.
you know? And so sometimes like, but here's the thing, it didn't mean that they didn't help me. They contributed a lot to me and holding me accountable. But again, it's kind of like what I talk about motivation, where you wake up every day and you kind of pick your source of motivation, or you choose to go find some motivation or get motivated. It's the same way with accountability. You know, even if that person is not somebody I actually talk to on the phone, listening to podcasts, things like that, where people are saying, hey, get up, get the job done. That's a source of accountability. But I have an amazing circle of women who, even though some of them are not just like, I have a woman in my circle who's just an amazing mother. And I look at how she is with her children and how hands-on she is with her children. That keeps me accountable as a mom. You know, she's asked me like, hey, did you do this for your daughter? Did you do this for your daughter? I'm like, man, you know, I need to do that. I need to get that done. So different areas of my life call for different accountability partners. So in business, they may change. More in my personal life, my personal friendships, those have pretty much stayed consistent. But yeah, I love it. I mean, it's I don't know what I would do. And I would say it's mostly the women that I surround myself by. You know, anytime I ever like hit rock bottom, it was mostly women who were there to like pull me up and pick me up. So I know we just got out of Women's History Month, but right. Man, got to give a shout out to the ladies, because we come through for each other like nobody's business. So
I agree. And I think that narrative needs to be pushed more, because I think the media and even like the way movies were portrayed, and it's always this stigma that women don't support each other or can't support each other, or it's really competitive. Like, I can't help her because she's going to outshine me. And it's like, yes, I have seen that, but I have also seen just some really dope women. I mean, really just like, you know, even how I met Maylin and the work we've done together. It's like, you know, really being able to just show like, this is okay. Like, we need to give back. We need to support. We need to find another woman that we can say, hey, sis, let me help you out. I realize this is happening. Let me help. Because I think a lot of times we feel alone unnecessarily. And, you know, like, we can all be in the same storm, but in different boats. And that doesn't mean you have to go through that storm alone. And so I love that you say that, and you are right, because I don't feel like that level of women, that sisterhood, that, you know, just that building of communities and corporations, like 1 month out of the year where it's like, yeah, let's talk about all the great things women have done. But, you know, the other 11 months, who's talking about that?
And we're doing the work. Right. So the women are helping women, right? And I think a lot of women also probably need to come forward and share that, right? Because it's very quiet, right? Like we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Like we try to be an example because a lot of people don't feel like supported. They don't feel like they can count on other women. And I think it's also a scarcity like mindset. Like there's enough for everybody. I promise you we could all be like business owners and billionaires and there's still more for other women. So one of the things that we try to be intentional about is helping the person that's coming next, right? Like as you know, Christina won the Columbus City School Board, and I think that's amazing. And the moment she won, I was excited. I said, yes. I'm like, okay, now who are we bringing back? Like, who is going to replace you?
Right. She's already like, you got your succession plan.
Right,
I'm like,
like,
girl, I've been here 30 days.
No,
but she's right. She's right.
I need to know who are we helping now because, you know, we didn't have a lot of help. We had to learn a lot on our own. And there's some people that came through, though. Thank God. That gave us a lot of guidance, but that's a lot of people that don't run because there's not enough help. Same thing with having a business. A lot of people don't want to have one because they're terrified. They don't have somebody to support them or show them step 1, 2, 3, or show their story how they did it. So a call to action for anyone listening is if that's you, right? Like if you need support, if you need guidance, like don't be ashamed, don't be shy. Come and ask someone, right? If you know someone, great. If not, message us and we can connect you, right, with someone that can help you because you're not alone. If you're a man, you're not alone. But if you're a woman especially, like you could totally do it. And there's so many women out here that are here to help you and we want to see you succeed.
Yeah. And I would say too, even to add to that, like, you know, a lot of people, like you said, they don't have those women in their circle. A lot of it is because the fear, like trust, like you said, like people have this scarcity mindset where they're like, oh my gosh, what if I share my idea with this person or this, and this? And here's the thing. I am not going to sit here and sugarcoat it and say that it might not happen. Right. But guess what? It's like with anything in life, right? Like Maya Angelou, she said, you know, trust, love, one more time and always one more time. That goes for everything, not just in romantic relationships, but in friendships too. Have I come across friends who have hurt, you know, crossed me or did me dirty? Absolutely. Yeah. But guess what? There's other people out there. That means they weren't meant to go with me to this next level in my life. You know, if we get so bogged down, you have to understand people make decisions that for their lives that are based on them and what they need. If you internalize every bad thing that somebody did, a lot of times the bad things that people do to you, whether it be in business or life, have a lot more to do with what they're dealing with than it ever had to do with you. And so with those relationships in our life, you know, one of the things I've been studying is relationships as a whole. You know, my church just did a whole series on relationships as a whole. You know, and so when we talk about these business relationships with other women, a lot of women have just been scorned, you know, and they're like, oh, I don't know, I got to do this by myself. Now, granted, some things you're going to have to do by yourself. Right. You know, you ain't always going to have a cheerleading squad in your corner. You know, you got to be able to do it in those seasons where you don't have anybody cheering for you, you know. And so, and we've all been there. And just trust and attract, right? Manifest that God is going to send those people into your life that, you know, he wants to go with you to the next level of your life. So, again, I love that call to action. I mean, seek those people, get around those people, you know, and you'll see, I mean, go to women's conferences, listen to podcasts and, you know, connect with those women on social media. I mean, you just never know. So.
Yeah. And be willing to bet on you. I think it's that understanding. I've been seeing more trends online where people are like going on vacations by themselves, going to events by themselves. I remember my early 20s, like, I would never have gone to an event by myself. I'm like, no, because I don't know nobody. Like, but you're going to a networking event. And so I think sometimes that fear of like, you know, and also I think to add to that, thinking about like, it's not always going to be your family, you know, and that was the hardest part for me when we launched businesses and I started doing things. I'm like, damn, ain't nobody going to buy nothing, you know, ain't nobody going to share nothing. And not saying all my family, right, or my friends, like I grew up with you, you know, and because we have this, sometimes we expect so much out of people. Like I can't expect me out of everybody. And that's sometimes the hardest part because family and you think like this immediate circle is all I have. And yet when you are willing to bet on you, you're willing to really lean into that fear of the unknown, you meet such amazing people on the other side. Like I would have never met you if I hadn't said yes to that panel, even though I was like, damn, I'm in the middle of 20,000 things. I really don't have time for this. But I was like, no, let's do it. And I'm so grateful because I met you, I met some other women, and it's just, you have to be willing to put yourself and be uncomfortable and put yourself in those rooms. It's necessary, especially if you want to really step outside of creating, being able to create the life that you really want. It's not always going to happen in circles and in direct relationships that you presently have.
And if you're too comfortable, you're not on the right path.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be uncomfortable. Like, if something is too easy, I'm like, then this is not, this is not it, because I'm no longer challenged, right? And I think I'm always excited about being challenged. Like, well, what was next? Like, what are we going to create next? So I am grateful, because we met and very uncomfortable. I didn't want to go either. So when we met, I didn't want to go to that place. I didn't want to go to that
event,
that training. I was like, I don't need it. Thank you.
Yeah, we both tried to cancel that morning. We both were like, yeah, we're not going. And then that's how we met. And I'm like, damn, if we would have both canceled, we would have never, I don't know that I don't know how we would have ran into each other after that. But yeah, it's crazy. Oh, I could talk to you all day. Like, you have so much. I mean, just hearing you and your authenticity and your passion and you just paying it forward. Like, what you learn, you're not one of those individuals who are like, I got to keep this to myself. Like, you feel like it's also part of your gift to be able to share with others. And so as we are getting ready to close, what advice would you give to either younger Santoria or just even a woman who's just at the beginning of her personal journey, whether it's something personal that she's going through, or maybe she's in a transition professionally? Like, what advice would you give her?
To her and to my younger self, it just goes back to like that promise, that keeps me anchored, is that all things. When I'm going through like a storm, which, even as we record this, I know we've talked a little bit off the mic about this. Like, I'm going through some craziness right now that eventually I'm sure I'll talk about, one day. But what I tell myself sometimes in those moments where I feel like I just cannot keep going is I'm like, all things, even this. I keep telling myself, even this. Even this. And if I would have kept those words in my mind, even this, yes, even the breakup, even the rape, and I know it sounds terrible because you're like, no. And you're right. Those things, they should not have happened. The things that you go through in your life, the adversity that comes, most of it is not your fault. It should never happen to some of these people. Some of the things the trauma that we face in life should never occur. The person that betrayed you, the business, the job that closed the door in your face with no warning or anything, and sent you out here into the world to take care of your family with nothing. It doesn't matter what happens to us in this life. Like, all things is gonna work out, and I think that would have saved me from worrying so much, because I would have kept my eyes on the bigger picture. It's all going to work out. Worrying gets us nowhere. Worrying is so detrimental to our health. It attracts negative. It just brings you down. When you're sitting around, you're literally just worried all the time about how you're going to get through this, how you're going to take care of this, just literally cast all your fears, your trust, look, God, you can have this, honey. I swear, sometimes I sit back, the way I talk to God, I know he probably be up there like, I am not sure. You talking to me like you my auntie, and I'll be like, God, listen, you can have this.
Right.
You can have this. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to stress. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to have those moments. You're going to have those days. But like I said, if I could give myself any advice, I would say all things, even this. Like, even this. Even this, whatever your this is, if you're listening to this, whatever your this is, okay, maybe your business just failed, okay, you got another one coming, keep going, rest if you need to rest. I'm not telling you to be one of those people that's like, oh, you get knocked back down, you need to get right back up and go hard. I posted this the other day on social media. I say, I don't go hard every day, but every day I go. And I don't know what that looks like. Some days that looks like me just getting up and going to just, take care of myself. Eat something healthy that day. Work out that day. Listen to some professional personal development, or just rest. Like, as women, we got this superhero complex where we just need to just constantly be like going. And that just goes to show what little faith and what little trust you have that God is going to get the job done. You can't do it all by yourself. And you shouldn't have to. You're not designed to. And the cool part about it is we don't have to. We got a support system. We got people in the world that can help. You got resources. But also, too, we serve a God who's more than willing and capable. And so if I could have just told myself that one thing as a kid, like Santoria, even this, yes, even the poverty, even the abuse, even the pain, even the loneliness, even feeling unchosen, even being betrayed, even all of it. Or even the friends that walked out of your life. Heck, even the people just people in general that walked out of your life. Even this, it's going to work out.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That's what I want you to remember. Even this.
Yeah. Well, we thank you so much for being here today and just being so authentically you and transparent about your journey. And definitely we will love to have you back at a later date, because we want to hear about the new book. When the new book is launched, we would love to be able to interview you about the new book for sure. And here at True Print for Life, we have a little mantra of our own of how we like to close out every single episode. And I think you have said it in so many different ways even today. But it's bigger than you is how we like to leave our listeners. And so if you will join us in just closing us out together on the count of usually like a silent 3, Maylin will do to my right here. And that's how we'll close out today's episode. It's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.